Hey, Penguins fans, happy Tuesday, December 13th for today's show, because there's a couple of off days for the Penguins' next game on Thursday against the Fancy Cats. We're going to get into a big injury update for the Penguins, as it looks like the streak of them being fully healthy is about to come to an end. It is a defenseman that is on the shelf. I will get to who it is directly after this drop, and we'll also get into just how good POJ has been this season. We're going to dive into the numbers, talk about more stuff that I saw from the game on Monday with how he is just developing at a really nice pace right now. And we'll also get into, just a small little preview of what to expect against the Cats. We'll have a full preview on Wednesday when I will be joined by Armando Velez of Locked On Panthers for a full crossover episode with that. So today's episode is all coming up right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at @LNorthStar And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So let's jump right into it. Penguins injury curse will live on. It'll always be a thing at this point. So just a few days after Jeff Petry said, hey, I'm fine, my hand's okay, kind of buckled on him, he went right to the locker room. He missed the game on Monday, so he was being evaluated for that injury. On Tuesday evening, the Penguins officially placed Jeff Petry on long-term injured reserve, which means he'll have to be out for a minimum of 10 games or 24 days. And they have recalled defenseman Mark Friedman and forward Drew O'Connor, so he's an extra forward for them. The Penguins are fully healthy at forward, but he's just another body. I don't think he's going to be in the lineup on Thursday, but he's an extra person to have right now, unless there's a forward that's hurt too, but I don't really think there is. But the big news is that Petry is going to be out for at least the next 3 to 3.5 weeks. That injury kind of tells me right now that probably a broken hand or some kind of hand injury. I don't know if it's fully broken, maybe it's sprained, but his hand is not doing well, and he'll be out for at least 3.5 weeks, potentially could be 4 to 5. The earliest he could return is January 8th. I believe that game is against Arizona, if I recall correctly. And the Penguins, they had no choice but to put him on LTIR if he was seriously hurt, because they don't have any cap room to call players up. I mean, they had $5,000 literally against the cap before Jeff Petry got hurt. It is purely dollar in and dollar out. And again, he suffered that injury on December 10th against the Sabres. Was probably a left wrist or a left arm injury. And I think with O'Connor, what they're looking for with him, he's played really well these last couple of games, 9 points in those 2 games. He's been one of Wilkes-Barre's best players. We'll see if he'll draw in Friedman. He's just going to kind of be a warm body for them. I think they're just going to keep rolling with the same defense that they had on Monday night. But it definitely stinks that Petry did get hurt, because he was having a pretty solid season. I know some of his underlings, weren't the greatest, but, if you go down up to natural stat trick, 28 games, the Penguins, when he was on the ice, had basically 50% of the shot attempts, 53% of the actual goals for, 54% of the expected goals, 53% of the scoring chances, 55% of the high danger chances. So shot attempts a little down, but overall his other underlings are pretty decent. Started out a bit slowly, taking the penalties, but I really did think that he was finding his form really well. And, he was really making that trade look like a good one. I think it was, at the time, I even said that I thought Petry over Matheson is an upgrade, even though Petry is a bit older. And so far, I think I've been proven correct with that. I think he's been, as advertised, a good defenseman in his own zone, someone who can play well offensively too. I think he's been really good on the power play as of late. Just hasn't brought, I don't want to say this. He's brought some offense. He's been good in the offensive zone, just hasn't brought as much as I thought he would so far. And yeah, he went on a little bit of a heater when he was under Marty St. Louis for part of last season. But, this is still a system that benefits him or suits him well, I should say. So I was kind of surprised to see his point totals not up to par just yet, but I still think he was having a pretty good season. So this loss is going to be a big one for the Penguins. He's their second best puck mover, in my opinion. That's going to really create a gaping hole now on that right side. So that means, Letang, the pressure is going to be really on him to eat those top pairing minutes. You're going to see other defensemen slide up. I think you're going to see Jan Ruta start getting second pairing minutes. And then on the third pairing, they can flip some guys around. They can put Chad Ruedel over there if they want to, or they can continue to use him on the left side. I think what you're probably going to see, if I had to guess, Pettersson, Letang, I think you're still going to see Dumoulin, Ruta, and then Joseph Ruedel. I think that's probably what they're going to do, especially if they want that, that full left righty like Mike Sullivan likes having for his defensive core. So I think those could potentially be the pairings moving forward. Wouldn't be surprised if they kind of flip-flopped a little bit. Maybe Ruta plays on the left side. He's had some history doing that. Obviously, Ruedel has played on the left side before. Friedman also, if he gets in the lineup, he is actually more comfortable, I think, on the left side compared to the rights. But, I know this weakens the defensive bid, and I know it's a big loss, but I do think the Penguins will be able to withstand this. They were able to withstand a short absence from Kris Letang. I think with Petry, even though he's had a good year, I do think this team is well equipped to handle that absence, because I think this defensive core is still pretty deep. Now, as for, the recalls and stuff, you all will recall back early on in the season when Mark Friedman, he had to go through waivers, right before the season started. He will not have to go through waivers before he goes back down again when Petry's ready to go, unless he plays over 10 games or spends up to 30 days on the team. If he does one of those two things, he will have to clear waivers. If not, he can be sent back down to Wilkes-Barre without having to clear waivers. So that is really nice. Drew O'Connor, he is waivers exempt, so he is fine. He can go down anytime they feel like it. So that is the reason why they brought up those two. I understand people are going to ask me, well, what about Ty Smith? Why is that trade looking so bad for John Marino? Guys, he makes a lot more money at this point than Drew O'Connor and Mark Friedman does. He actually makes more money combined than them. There you go. I know they could have easily done it. They put Petry on LTIR. That frees up $6 million cap space. They could have easily done it. But, I think at this point, why bring Ty Smith up also if you're just going to send him? I mean, what are we doing here? He's going to continue to get playing time down there. If you're bringing him up, you're going to play him. Like I think it would just make no sense if they were to just bring him up and for him to just sit in the press box every night, because he does have more talent than Mark Friedman, especially offensively, and you want to see what he has. But when you bring him up, you want to make sure that he is in the lineup. You have a safety valve in him when Brian Dumoulin likely walks after the season. They probably have been talking about that a lot too. So he's probably not really even taking this personally, not being called up. It's just that Mark Friedman, he's more equipped, I guess, to sit in the press box just because he's been a number 7, number 8 defenseman for most of his career. So I don't really have a problem with it, but I understand that people are going to complain, but that's the reasoning I at least have for why they're not bringing up Smith. So some unfortunate news for the Penguins with injuries, but this is what we all signed up for. You knew it wasn't going to be sunshine and rainbows all year, as the saying goes, right? But so Petry will be out at least until January 8th. We'll have to see if it's longer than that. Big loss, but Penguins do have O'Connor and Mark Friedman up right now. So that wraps up this first segment, going into a big injury and what it means for the Penguins moving forward with their defensive core. Coming up in the next segment, we're going to get into P.O. Joseph and how he is really just turning into a shutdown top 4 defender right now, and how if it weren't for this outstanding rookie class, I think he'd be getting a lot more Calder Trophy love. But before I get to that, betonline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From pro football to college bowl season to basketball and World Cup, we've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at betonline as well. We're always the fastest, easy way to get your betting fix. You can head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at @LNRSO Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. Sorry, I just had to respond to my girlfriend because she was sending me some weird text message. Where did you see that? Okay, done. Put the phone away. I don't know what the heck that was about. Anyways, getting back to the overall topic here of discussion. So P.O. Joseph, another ridiculous game on Monday night. I mean, I had my eyes fixated on him the entire time because, man, does he play great defense in his defensive zone. Every time the Stars were coming in when he was on the ice, he would be the first one to poke that puck away. The Penguins would be going right back down the other side of the rink. A couple of instances, where he was involved in one-on-one defense, shut that down like it was nothing. Gets his first goal this season and his second career NHL goal, and just roofed that one past Jake Ottinger. Also, really nice pass from Kasperi Kapanen to get that puck to POJ. Go look at that. It was a really good play, and he's Kapanen. He's definitely feeling himself right now. If he's making those kind of passes, but overall, P.O. Joseph is just showing the coaching staff just how good he was. Because remember, I touched on it on my late Monday into Tuesday episode. This was someone who, honestly, they were trying to trade him during the offseason, during the preseason, especially after they got Ty Smith. I was sitting there saying, there's no way they're going to leave Ty Smith off the roster. Obviously, I took the big fat L. I have it on my forehead right now. He was great in camp, great in the preseason, and I was expecting a trade. I knew Mark Friedman was going to go down. They were trying to trade him, but they couldn't find a taker. I think Hextall is probably thanking the Lord right now that he didn't do it because, in those first 25 games so far this season, this is the most he's played in an NHL season. Remember, during the COVID shortened season, 16 games. Last year only played 4 games. This year already 25. He is putting up some rock solid numbers at 5-on-5 right now. When POJ is on the ice, Penguins had 52% of their shot attempts. They also have 66% of the actual goals. 22 goals for, 11 goals against when he is on the ice. That is ridiculously good. Going to some more numbers. Expect scoring chances, 54% of those. That is a career high for him. 53% of the high danger chances for the Penguins when he is on the ice. 52% of the expected goals, and then 55% of the actual high danger goals for. That's 10-8 right there. Just absolute spectacular stuff right now from the first-year defenseman. And I'll say it again. If he keeps playing like this, and when Petry comes back, I would really consider putting POJ up with Letang and having that be your top pairing. I think Pettersson has done a great job on that pair with Letang. I think he's really, balanced him out. It was obviously not working with Dumoulin just because he was looking washed. And I know Tanger, after that, was kind of having some rough games, stroke happened. But the last couple of games, I think he's looked more like the Letang that we all know and love. It's helping that he's playing with Pettersson, but he did play with Joseph in that first game back, and he looked good next to him. Joseph did not look out of place at all. Letang was, leading the team in ice time in his first game back after that, which is typical of Letang. That's just how it goes, I think, at this point. But, POJ was right there with him, and his numbers were good. You remember a couple seasons ago when they did play on the top pairing for a decent amount of time in those 16 games, and the numbers were not good. I think, POJ just had a little bit of the NHL jitters, wasn't playing that well, was playing too high in the lineup. Right now, he's been taking on that bottom pairing, top 4 role. He's crushing those minutes. And I think if you were to give top pairing minutes to him right now with how he's playing, I think he would play well with those as well. And I think that balances out the defense pretty well because you can move Pettersson down to play with Petry, right? That's been a great pairing all year. And then Brian Dumoulin can play with Jan Ruta. And for as much as I have bagged on Dumoulin for a lot of this season, and I think a good chunk of it is deserved, he has played better on the bottom pairing, which is, I think that's more suited for him right now as he, this is his final year in a Penguin uniform. But I couldn't stop gushing over how good P.O. Joseph looked on Monday night. That goal was awesome. He was also involving himself, more offensively after that, getting a couple other scoring chances. His shot from the point is just a booming one. Really nice job quarterbacking that second unit. I would actually love for him to stay quarterbacking that second unit, even when Petry's out. And if he, even when Petry comes back, and if he really crushes these minutes when Petry's out, I would potentially just have, Joseph as the lone defenseman on that second unit and have Petry on the bench. I know Mike Sullivan may not do that. He would opt to, have two defensemen on that second unit. He's done that at times for the first unit, but I think right now with everyone healthy, he likes seeing Letang as a lone D-man on there. But, this is a big opportunity for him with Jeff out to really cement himself as that top four shutdown defenseman and someone who can really quarterback a power play, because it looked great on Monday night. Defensively, he was a rock. Offensively, I already talked about it. It's a really good start right now as we're over a quarter of the way into the NHL season. Don't take this for granted. He is looking like someone who is going to be on this blue line for years to come, and that has me super excited, to say the least. But that wraps up the second segment of the show. Coming up in the final segment, we're going to get into a very small preview of the Florida Panthers and what's making them just not play as well this season, because remember, they were averaging 4 goals a game last season. So look for that coming up right after this commercial break. All right, I'm back on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at @Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So it's no secret, if you look at the NHL standings, which I'm going to my phone right now, but just to make sure, but I know it for a fact. Sometimes I just can't ever doubt myself. But you have the NHL standings, and you see the Panthers outside the playoff picture with a 13-12-4 record. They're 4 points out of a playoff spot behind the New York Islanders. They're also behind the Montreal Canadiens, Washington Capitals, and Detroit Red Wings, who are a bit above them. But this season, not been good for the Cats. I was a little bit skeptical about that Paul Maurice hire. Didn't really know what they were doing with that. I mean, Andrew Burnett did a good job with them. I understand that they kind of fell off a little early in the playoffs, got embarrassed by the big brother to the Tampa Bay Lightning, but I thought it was a bit much to fire him. I think he did an admirable job after filling in for Joel Quenneville, who of course resigned due to the situation with Kyle Beach. Led them to their first series win in 25, 30 years. I understand you look awful against the Lightning, but the Lightning will do that to you. The Lightning showed them that you're not ready for this yet, but they've also shown that to a lot of teams over the past few seasons. But I just didn't think the move for them was, okay, we're going to go hire Paul Maurice, who has just had middling results through most of his NHL tenure. And then the loss of Mackenzie Weegar is looming large because their defense is not that deep. And sure, Tkachuk is really good because he's the better player in that deal. But, they're also missing Jonathan Huberdeau right now as well. You look at that lineup, Tkachuk, Barkov, Reinhart. I mean, that's a ridiculous top line. Barkov, you all know how good he is. I mean, I don't have to say it. One of the best two-way centers in the league, can do it all offensively, defensively. He's ridiculous. Tkachuk, he's the goal scorer on that line. Reinhart can do it all as well. It's a very good top line. After that, it gets a little, Sam Bennett centering their second line with Colin White. Eetu Luostarinen is on that second line left wing. Nick Cousins, Eric Stahl, Denisenko is on that third line. Chris Tierney, Ryan Longberg, Zach Dalp. It trails off quick. And I think I understand right now that they do have some injuries. Patrick Hornquist is out right now for Penguin, of course. Carter Verhaeghe, he is day-to-day. Anton Lundell is out. Anthony Duclair is still on IR. He has not been able to come back just yet. But that forward group right now in that trade, and I know they brought back the better player even though I think Calgary could win that trade in the long haul potentially, but that forward group, it's not the same. And defensively, it's the same as well. Gustav Forsling, who is a good defenseman, he's just not Mackenzie Weegar. Aaron Ekblad, you all know what he can do. After that, though, Mark Stahl, Brandon Montour, both are not that good anymore. Josh Mahura, Max Kierstead, not good enough either. So, it's their lineup is just not as deep. And, scoring 4 goals a game, that's not going to last. Sorry. There's going to be regression when it comes to that. You can't just be the best offensive team like that for one season and think, oh, it's just going to carry over. We got Tkachuk and all that. No, it's very hard to average 4 goals a game in back-to-back seasons. And I haven't even gotten to the goaltending yet. Sergei Bobrovsky has been brutal this season. He is sub 900 yet again. That contract continues to look absolutely gross. And I'm going to go down here on Money Puck to get to this because it's funny. Spencer Knight has been the better goalie this year. And honestly, guys, it's not close. Spencer Knight right here, he's played in 15 games this year, right? He saved 3.5 goals above expected, 952 save percentage on unblocked shots at 5v5, 919 overall save percentage, 2.64 goals against average. The Panthers should start him on Thursday against the Penguins because he is a better goalie. Now, if you scroll down a little bit more and we go find, if I can find him right here, if we go to Sergei Bobrovsky in 16 games, so it's kind of been a 1A, 1B situation, though I think Knight should be getting the more of the playing time going forward. 16 games for Sergei Bobrovsky. He's allowed 4 goals more than expected, 884 save percentage, 3.58 goals against average. That is awful. If I were the Penguins, I would be hoping that Paul Maurice starts him on Thursday. He's always been bad against the Penguins throughout his career. But man, that contract that Dale Talon signed him to is aging like milk. And everyone knew it was going to. Day one, why are you signing him to an 8-year deal worth well over $8 million per year? Just did not make any sense at the time. It continues to make less and less sense as each passing day goes. Spencer Knight, he is the goalie of the present, and he's the goalie of the future. He should be their number one guy. It's time for them to just ride Bobrovsky on the bench and use him as a backup. And I know that's hard to do because he signed for a lot of years and you're putting a lot of money on the bench, but so what? Knight is your guy, and they need to keep playing him, more games at this point. But Panthers, they got to figure out a way to get back into the playoff picture here. Just has not been that good of a start for them. They have high-end talent, so the Penguins will have to be aware. Tkachuk is awesome again. Barkov, Reinhart, Ekblad, but they're definitely not as dangerous, I will say, as they were last season. And those 3 games that they played against them last season were a lot of fun. I remember that game. The first one I think they played was 4-2 in the third period. The Penguins go up. 9 minutes left. Panthers come storming back to tie it, win it in overtime. And then I think another one they played in Pittsburgh was a lot of fun. The other one after that, they were 3 pretty high scoring games. So I would expect, if I were a betting man, I would take the over on this. I think these are going to be, this is going to be a really good game. But I'll have a full preview for this one coming up on Wednesday's episode with Armando Velez, and he'll touch more on what's made the Panthers struggle this season. If it's, more than them just getting bad goaltending from Bobrovsky and them just being banged up at forward and not having as many impact forwards as they did after last season. Because I also do think the loss of Mason Marchment is paying a big price for them. He was awesome last season. He's been lighting it up with the Dallas Stars as well. But that'll do it for this episode. I really appreciate all of you listening to this one. We've hit about 750 subscribers on the YouTube page. Really hoping we can make the push to 1,000 soon. I would like to get there by the end of the season. So tell a friend if you were an audio listener or you have not subscribed to the YouTube version, please drop a sub there. Really trying to get 1K because once there is the 1,000 subscribers, I am going to do a little bit of a giveaway for a jersey, puck, something like that. I'm really excited about that. But again, thank you all so much for listening. Always appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow evening with another episode with Armando Velez of Locked On Panthers. Then I'll recap the game on Thursday, and then we'll preview the weekend on Friday when the Penguins will come up to Raleigh to play the Hurricanes. So again, thank you all so much for listening. I'll talk with you all on Wednesday.